Hey guys, I am so sorry for leaving y'all hanging the last two episodes, but I'm back. I just could not make myself get put together or turn on the camera, but I'm back and I'm ready to get into this week. So let's talk Beyond the Gates for today, August 17th, 2026. So we start this episode with where we left off on Friday. And on Friday, Andre went to the Bowman and he was meeting with the mysterious person who, surprise, that's facetiousness, just in case anyone was wondering. Surprise, it was Heather. And so he goes into Heather, and apparently Heather and Andre have a past, and she's talking to him about seeing that he married some supermodel. Mind you, she's hung out with Danny like twice now. Like, she saw Danny earlier today and she saw Danny one other day. Like, her going talking to him like, oh yeah, I heard you were married to like Danny Dupree, some supermodel type or something. Like, she know that who Danny is and hasn't already sussed out the competition. Like, okay. But anyway, so they're talking and she wants to talk more about Danny. And then, he's like, I gotta go. This was a part of my past. And he finds out, because he didn't know, that Joey is her brother. And he's kind of like, can you like keep this on the low? And she's like, my brother doesn't have anything to do with my personal life. And he was like, good. Yeah, because his wife is best friends with Joey's girlfriend. So, but Heather is messy, and I'm wondering what it is exactly that she's up to, because she's definitely up to something. But then he leaves, but before she lays one on him, and he's like, this can't happen. Child, your wife done kissed Bill 65 times and then they went half on the, never mind. So anyway, anyway, so he goes to Uptown and he's day drinking because he's stressed out about Heather. And Jacob happens to be there with his brother. And because he was planning some type of surprise with Grayson, but then Isaiah showed up, so he's there talking with Isaiah about how Eva's doing, and he was like, your wife's stepdaddy. Every time they call Andre stepdaddy, I'd be weak. But he was like, your wife's stepfather is over there drinking. And so he goes over there because he assumes that because of Danny's behavior at the hospital, that Andre is over there drinking about that. And that is not at all why he's drinking. But he goes over there and he tries to lend a helping hand or a shoulder for Andre to lean on, but Andre's like he's good or whatever. Meanwhile, we have Kat Chelsea meeting with Gran, and they want to show her a bag that they made in honor of Nicole. However, their um, rivals or competitors have released a bag recently called the Nicole, so they can't rightfully name it the Nicole. So they want to name it, what is a nickname for Nicole? Nikki, which is also a name that Leslie tauntingly calls Nicole whenever she gets the inclination. And so Gran is like, do you want to be disowned by your own mother? Because, girl, naming the bag the Nikki probably ain't gonna go over well with Nikki. She's like, Nicole never really liked nicknames, and she never really liked nicknames, and Nikki, she was taunted with by Leslie. So she probably ain't gonna be feeling that neither. But she suggested that they talk with Nicole first. She just suggested that they talk with Nicole first to see how Nicole would feel about it, because that's a lot. But anyway, then we have Naomi and Danny are at Bill's office because Naomi is filling in per Bill's request while he is convalescing in the hospital. And so she's talking to her mom and she's telling her about how, Tomas is threatened by her helping out at the firm, but she's just helping out. She's not, wanting to work for Bill's firm. Like, she's not trying to come do that. That's never been her thing, and it ain't gonna become her thing. But Tomas is threatened, and she said, and Tomas is like family. He and Kat, if he and Kat get married, and Danny burst out laughing because she said she's not marrying him. Yeah, she ain't. Please, if if for the love of Christ, please don't have Kat marry Tomas, because we don't need that. And so Danny's like, I saw that girl face when he asked her. She ain't marrying him. And so Tomas comes in, and well, Tomas actually goes to the hospital to take Bill a deposition to review. And so he's asking Tomas how is it going with him and Naomi. And he was like, oh, we have an understanding. And he was like, would Naomi say the same thing? Tomas is such a liar, but I guess that's what lawyers do. Meanwhile, while Tomas is there, Vernon comes. And so Tomas leaves and he goes back to the office and he sees Danny and Naomi there. And Danny's like, well, why don't you take a couple of hours off, go spend time with Kat? And he was like, no. And so he says no, and then Danny and Naomi talk a little bit more, and Danny leaves. And so when Danny leaves, he comes back, and he and Naomi get into it again, and he's like, you know what, I think I will take the rest of the afternoon off. And she said, I think that's what's best. So then he leaves to go hang out with Kat, but Kat is like, yeah, go work out or something because I'm working. But then Isaiah comes and he's talking to her, and she stopped working to have a whole full-blown conversation with him. And for once, their conversation isn't fraught with the tension that is between her and Eva, which is good because Kat told her grandma and Chelsea that, she not going to be friends with her, but she can, see some kind of peace with the two of them. So let's hope. Not that I think Kat should or owes um that girl any peace, but I just want that for Kat because she deserves the peace. But anyway, then Jacob goes and he tells Naomi that her stepdaddy was day drinking. And then Danny goes home and she's looking for Andre because remember, they last spoke and they both said they were headed home. Neither one of them went home. And now she has come home and he still ain't there. So she calls him and his phone goes straight to voicemail. She's leaving him a voicemail. She's like, what did we say about, making sure our phones are charged? Where are you, or whatever. And so then she apparently gets a call from Ashley because Grayson texts Ashley to tell her that Andre may need a ride home because he's drunk at the bar. And so she comes and she's like, what's going on with you? And he's like, oh, nothing, I just got a lot on my mind. Nothing, I just got a lot on my mind. Nothing, I have a lot on my mind. Andre, stop telling lies. But I mean, Danny lies, so there's that. But yeah, that was Beyond the Gates. Oh, and then Vernon got in Bill's behind about Danny. But yeah, that was Beyond the Gates for Hey guys, let's talk Beyond the Gates for today, August 18th, 2026. So, we start this episode at the country club in the locker room, and it is Ted, Martin, Carlton, Kyle, and Smitty. Like, there were five people. Yeah. And so we know that they were playing basketball for a charity event for back to school. And so, they're in the locker room and they're joking and laughing and playing or whatever. And then Martin and Smitty leave. And when they leave, Kyle is like, he's going to go get cleaned up because he is um, meeting with Nicole. And so when he goes to shower, um, Ted asks Carlton, like, you okay with that? And he was like, what do you mean? He's like, him so casually talking about, being with Nicole. And he was like, he tells Ted that he and Nicole stopped seeing each other, and that she is now seeing Kyle or whatever. And Ted then starts talking. It was hard about how hard it was seeing Nicole date other people, but now that he has moved on, he kind of see it. He was just glad that she was with someone that was going to treat her well. And he was like, well, the same can be said of Kyle, who had come back into the room. And he was like, thanks for the vote of confidence. And then he said, I'm just trying to speak it into existence, but if anything should happen to Nicole, just know, and it's just like, this is awkward because all three of them are in the room, in the locker room, talking about her, and they've all three had her. It's so weird. That's just too, I'm not mature enough for that. It's just too much closeness in that circle. Like, meanwhile, Nicole and Vanessa are in the dining room and they're having brunch, and they're talking about Vanessa is being rude. She is on her phone and she's not paying Nicole any attention. And Nicole's like, what's going on? If you can't close that deal that you're working on, you just forget about it. She says it's not work, it's personal. And so she tells her that um tells her about Joey's sister. And then Nicole's like, Joey has a sister. And she's like, yes, Joey has a sister. He kind of keeps that part of his life separate. And she's telling her how he keeps wanting her to stay away from his sister. However, she met the sister, Danny's met the sister, and the sister seems nice and she doesn't seem fake or phony or any of that. So she doesn't understand, where it's coming from. And Nicole's telling her, well, if Joey is telling you this, then maybe you should listen to Joey. But she ain't trying to hear nothing that Joey has to say. So, um, she ends up Joey is at the casino and he's talking to the other man that he has put on surveillance for Heather. And he asked her, tell me everything that my sister has done up until now. He was like, oh, she's getting a manicure now, but last night she went back to the hotel and she didn't leave. I was sitting in the lobby. He was like, you sitting in the lobby, but you didn't have eyes on her, so she could have been doing anything and you don't know. So he's not adequately surveilling her, which is Doug, because she could have went out the back door. Because if you think that Heather doesn't know that Joey has someone following her, then you're stupid. So so Joey is mad because you need to do your job correctly. And so eventually Vanessa comes back and she starts questioning him again about him and his relationship with Heather, and why he's like so adamant that she stay away from Heather. And he basically tells her, look, I can't get into that part of my life, and if that's a deal breaker for you, then let me know now. And it was like very stern, like he's not going there and you have to accept it. And so I don't know if this is going to kind of uh put a thaw in their relationship a little bit, and it might work to Deanna's um to what she wants, because she want to be able to kind of like infiltrate, and if there's already a crack, it'll be easy for her to kind of pull her mom away from Joey, maybe. But she ain't giving up her man. Meanwhile, Eva and Leslie are at Orphe Jean's, and she's, talking to her about her scar and all of that, and she's telling her she didn't appreciate her gossiping about it. And she's like, girl, I wasn't gossiping about it. I was talking to the other person that loves you more than life itself. I'm talking to your dad, who happens to also be a doctor who, can help with this situation. And they somehow start talking about Leslie and her relationships, and she's like, you need to give up, waiting for my dad. What's going on with you and Malone? He doesn't come around. I'm your daughter, and I don't know anything about him. I haven't really met him. Like, that's not even cool either. And she's like, is it serious? Like, what's going on? And meanwhile, Ted walks into the restaurant. And so when Ted walks into the restaurant, she calls him over, and he's talking to Eva, trying to see how she's feeling. And he said, did you give any more thought to seeing a therapist? And she's like, no, but I'm feeling much better. I'm not in my head anymore. He was like, well, if anything changes, you come to me. And she was like, oh, Leslie, oh, does that mean me too? And he was like, is your name Eva? And then he, leaves to go to that tape because he's waiting for Shanice to come. And so Eva's like, look, you see how he just treated you? He's not checking for you. You need to move on with your life. And they have a bit of a back and forth. And um, she feels the kind of way about how Eva is coming at her. And she tells her that daughters aren't supposed to um, give their mother's relationship advice. And she's like, well, somebody should. And so she leaves and tells her mom, you deserve better. And she leaves. And so when she leaves, then um she calls Malone, and she's like, if you still want to pursue me, you need to do XYZ. Like, you're begging a man to pursue you. Like, girl, between you on this show and Jordan um on General Hospital, y'all love to beg a man. Couldn't be me. Anyway, so then we have Haley and Bill. They're at the hospital, and they are trying to get frisky, and they keep elevating his heart rate. I don't know what Bill doesn't understand about the fact that your heart stop beating, and if not for medical interference, you would have died there on the floor of your law firm. I know Haley wants him to die, but I don't understand what Bill doesn't get, because now he start talking about trying to leave AMA again, and he feel better and blah blah blah. You literally just had heart surgery. They had to put a machine in your heart to make sure that your rhythm stays good. Like, I don't understand what you get. It got so bad that Shanice comes in, snaps on him, and then she leaves, and then Ashley goes in because she's in the bed now with him, raising his heart rate, and she basically had to have Haley escorted out the room by security. It got crazy, insane. And then so Shanice is at the hospital. No, she's at Orphe Jean's with Ted, and he tells her he's ready to take their relationship to the next level, and he wants to meet her brothers. And she's like, you're not ready for that. And he was like, well, I don't scare easy. I'm ready. Y'all think Ted ready? Because Ted, he say he don't scare easy, but Ted is kind of soft. Because, yeah, I don't think he ready neither. But, yeah, let me know if y'all think Ted is ready to meet Shanice's brothers down in the comments, and I will see you all tomorrow. Bye. Hey guys, let's talk Beyond the Gates for today, August 19th, 2026. So we start this episode with Kyle and Nicole, and Nicole is getting dressed because they're all about to go to Uptown for Kyle's open mic night. No, not Kyle, Noah's open mic night. So is Joey and Vanessa. And then we see Noah and Deanna. They're at Uptown. However, they didn't come early enough, so he can't be added to the list for the open night. So it has to get canceled. So he calls his dad and to stop him from coming before they get there. And so he Kyle relays the information to Nicole, and she's like, well, I might be able to save the night. And she basically assembles everyone to her house. So Vanessa, Deanna, Noah, the Grands all come to her house instead of going to Uptown. And so they come, and he is very nervous about performing in front of Anita, and his guitar isn't tuned, and so he tunes it, and she goes and she talks to him, before, and then he goes and he performs, and then she talks to him after. So she's going to kind of take him under her wing and mentor him in the music business. And so she also invited him to go to her voice coachings because she's trying to get her voice back, in shape so that she can record this album for Barbara. And so she's, working on that. So she is inviting him so that he can, just be there to witness and give her pointers. And, because she isn't so like stuff that she can't glean something from the younger generation, because that's something big to Anita. She always wants to consider how to pull in the younger generation as well. So that's them. And then we have Ashley, Shanice. They're at work, and Monica comes up and she says that she has been called into Bill's room because Bill wants to talk with her about the inappropriate behavior of Ashley and Shanice and how they treated Haley. And so, they both give her their versions of what happened. And she was like, well, we'll see what happens after I speak to Bill. And so, they're talking to Bill, but Ashley is about to get off work. So Shanice like, go ahead and leave or whatever. It's no big deal. Go ahead and leave. So she leaves, and she is meeting with Naomi, Jacob, and um and Grayson for a surprise for Naomi because Jacob has planned a surprise because they're not exactly able to go take their Mexican trip right now because, with, the case for Madison, and also with the case with Madison, and also with Bill being in and out the hospital. Now is not necessarily the opportune time to be leaving the country, even if it is still close because Mexico isn't far, but still is not the opportune time to be leaving the country because of Bill and his health issues. And, she has to hold things down kind of at his firm and her firm, even though she's pulled back from her firm a bit. She still has to hold things down for the two firms. And so being away isn't tenable right now. So they have a little Mexican party so that, she can enjoy a little taste of Mexico until they can get a time to go away. And plus, Jacob is also still working on. He's still working on the impaler stuff. So then we have Leslie and Marcel as we saw yesterday, she called him and begged him to be serious about her because she has to beg a man. A man won't readily be serious without prompting from her. But anyway, she begged him to take her serious. So he, she got dressed up and they came to Orphe Jeans. And when they get to Orphe Jeans, they see that Eva is there by herself. And she's like, oh, I'm waiting for Isaiah. He's seeing a friend, but I'm waiting for him. And I thought I'll get some work done. So Leslie wants to like sit at the table with Eva, but he was like, no, I really need to get some work done. So they go to another table, but the table is in within earshot of Eva. So she's like listening over, their conversation. And he's asking her, like, why did you, call me, giving me an ultimatum? And he was like, I don't like being cornered, but I'll allow it for you. And he was like, if you wanna he basically asked her to move on to his boat with him. And she was like, absolutely not. And she didn't take it kind of well. So he was like, well, forget it. And he went to the bathroom. And so when he goes to the bathroom, Eva comes and she's talking to him. And she was like, I think you're resistant because you're still holding on to something that will never happen with my dad. So she thinks about what Eva says. And so Eva goes back to her table and Isaiah comes and then they're about to leave and she comes to the table and she's like basically mouthing to her mom for her to act right. So then when they leave, she was like, I'm sorry, that I behaved that way. Let me say what I feel. And then she gets up and she grabs a fork and he's like, what are you doing? And she starts singing. What? Why is Leslie on my screen singing, y'all? I was literally sitting in my chair looking at the television like, what the F am I watching? Why was Leslie on my TV screaming, talking about some Barbara the articulate was my mother? And so I rather put this in words. I was like, what is happening? What is happening and why is it happening? I didn't ask to be tortured like this. And tortured I was. Anyway, so then back at the hospital, Ted brings Shanice some chocolates. And then Monica comes back from speaking with Bill. And, of course, the but anyway, obviously they weren't in trouble and she reiterates she stated that she reiterated to Bill that they were just doing their job and following hospital protocol. And so then afterwards, Shanice goes to see Ted and they make plans for later on that night. Meanwhile, back at home, Danny and Andre are doing what um sorry, Don Andre and Danny doing what um they're good at, deflecting. Neither one of them are having any real conversation. She's thinking about being in the elevator with Bill, well, telling Vanessa about being in the elevator with Bill. He's thinking about um being in the hotel room with Heather. He's not saying what's going on. He's telling lies. She's apologizing for one thing when she's trying to apologize for both. But instead of telling, y'all started this marriage on the premise that y'all would be honest about um what's going on, and neither one of you are being honest at this point, and it's very annoying. And I'm tired of both of you because Andre is stupid and so is Danny. And Danny doesn't love herself. And this is where we are at this point. And what am I supposed to do with any of this? But yeah, that was Beyond the Gates for today. Tomorrow is Thursday, I believe, and I'll be back for more of the shenanigans and agains and never have Leslie on my screen singing again. Bye. Hey guys, let's talk Beyond the Gates for today, August 20th, 2026. I'm going to start this one off a little bit differently. I'm going to start this by saying that I almost didn't give y'all a Beyond the Gates recap today because none of this of what happened on today's episode was worth recapping. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to do this in the allotted time that I have because I really don't have much to say. I really wanted to skip recapping this episode because this was stupid. But let's get into it. So we start this episode with Nicole and Kyle, and they're in bed, and then they come downstairs. I don't even know if her house had an upstairs, but I'm assuming that they come downstairs and they're cleaning up from the party. You know, they had the party with um, the people who was there, her parents and Deanna and Vanessa and them. So, you know, they're cleaning up from the party, and then he drops a gift. It was a wedding gift from when her and Ted were married. And she has a huge reaction to him dropping the and um shattering the crystal dish. And so, you know, she's apologizing and she was like, I don't even know why I still have it. And he was like, well, you kind of had a whole life with him in this house. So it's not like really all that, you know, shocking that you have things from your marriage in this house. And so she started, you know, I know that, you know, your situation is different because your wife died than my situation with Ted because he and I divorced, but do you still have things from, you know, when you were married to your wife? And he says he has a full storage unit with things, and he did bring things when he moved to the DMV. He did bring things, but most of what he has is going to his boys. And then they were just talking about, you know, the sentimentality of the old life, and he understands that, you know, you carry things with you from your old life. I don't really know. That's why I said I don't even know why I'm even doing this recap because I really don't know what they was talking about. They could have kept this one in the can. I'm sorry. So then anyway, then we have Ted and Bill. Ted comes to see Bill, and he was like, you know what, I know what you here for. You can go save it. But he comes in anyway, and they start talking. And they're talking about, you know, him and Leslie and how did you go from Nicole to Leslie, and then he starts thinking about, you know, how things got started between him and Leslie and how Bill overheard him having a conversation. He was making his plan to do, he had already kissed her and crossed that line, but then he was making the plan to cross the other line, and Bill overheard a conversation with that he was having, and Bill, shocker, Bill tried to talk him out of going through with it. I didn't really have much respect for Ted in the first place for, you know, after what he has done to Nicole. And it's not even necessarily that he did that to Nicole, because that's a whole thing in and of itself. But the fact that he didn't even try to, the thing with Ted that will always stick with me is when Nicole did find out, he expected Nicole to just get over it. He didn't try anything to really win back his wife. He was just like, okay, let me wait until she gets over it, and then we can go back to the way things were. And because she didn't get over it, and she did end up divorcing him, then he just goes and moves on with his life. But he didn't actually do anything to try and make amends and to try and win her back. He just let it be. Like, get over it or don't, basically, is how he was. So, because he was like that, I don't have much for him. I can't say that I had any respect for Ted. But after seeing the fact that you were fully cognizant, it wasn't you being caught up in the moment, you were fully cognizant of the situation because Bill overheard that conversation and he tried to stop you, and you did what you wanted to do. And then you went and lied to Leslie because you told her you loved her, but you were only trying to get what you wanted, and that was to sleep with her because you were upset with Nicole. I didn't have any respect for you before, but I definitely don't have any respect for you now. So there's that. Then we have Isaiah and Eva, and she's talking about how she thinks her mom is backsliding back into old ways with Ted. And she's talking to him about how her parents met. And then stupid Isaiah is talking about how he's glad that Ted kept coming back for more because it resulted in Eva. And I'm like, what? That's crazy. All right. And then he starts talking about how he got caught up with Joey and how Joey saved him because he was stealing cars and all that stuff. And it almost caught up with him because he was still in the wrong car. I don't care about that either. So then we have Leslie and Marcel, and they basically break up because don't no man want her. No, I'm just joking. But, they don't want the same things. And so, they break up. And so she gets upset. She's reminiscing about when she first met Ted. And then so she calls down to room service and gets a bottle of wine and some glasses. And then because she can't possibly be any more desperate than she actually is, she takes her desperate behind downstairs and knocks on Ted's door trying to get him to drink with her. Ted, who has a girlfriend. So then, Ted is not there or whatever the case may be. And so when he doesn't answer the door, she leaves the wine and the glasses outside his door, and then she goes and gets drunk at the um uptown with Grayson, and they're talking, and he's being kind to her and he's thanking her for showing him grace. And she said, I know what it's like to be down, so of course I am. So she's drunk, and she had to call Eva to come get her because she was drunk. And so she is back up at Eva's apartment on Eva's couch holding the teddy bear that Ted gave her all those years ago because she held on to that teddy bear all those years. I asked my friend, I didn't really ask the question. I just was thinking out loud to her. I said, I'm trying to decide who is more desperate. Is it Jordan from General Hospital, or is it Leslie? And she said yes. Her her response to me was yes, because they both do very desperate things, and it's very embarrassing. Like, stand up. I'm not going to let a man play in my face. And Ted done already told you that he told you what you wanted to hear in the moment. He told you that it wasn't real. He told you that recently, a couple weeks ago. So now you're knocking on his door for what reason? The man already told you that he don't want you. He ain't gonna want you. He with the other girl. You said to Eva the other day that he's gonna get tired of her, but he's still with her and he's still treating you like trash. Because now he's treating you bad because you don't understand, leave me alone. So now because you don't understand, leave me alone, now he gotta treat you how you acting. And you still running around acting crazy. I just don't know. I'm so sick of this, and I can't believe I wasted my time watching this or even talking about it. I'll see y'all to wrap up this week tomorrow, y'all. Bye. Hey guys, let's talk Beyond the Gates for today, August 21st, 2026. So we started this episode at Hamilton and Associates, and Naomi and Caroline are in Bill's office, and Naomi is thanking Caroline for helping her get acclimated, because she's, in there working for Bill while Bill is in the hospital convalescing. So she's thanking Caroline because she's been assisting her with, getting her feet, her bearings and everything. And so Haley shows up at the hospital because remember the last time we saw Haley, she got escorted off the premises because she don't know how to act in the convalescing man's hospital room. And so she came in because I guess Monica put her back on the visiting list, but she was complaining because she says they have rules and whatnot, and if they violate again, then she will be banned from the property. And Bill is all, oh no, they not. And I should have went straight to the board because the board probably wouldn't like their new hire trying to get them a lawsuit. And she's like, oh, you don't gotta do a lawsuit or whatever. So then he asked her to go to his office to get his laptop because he says that he's getting a crank in his neck by looking at his tablet. So she leaves to go do that, and he has to wait until she leaves in order to text Chelsea because today is actually the anniversary of when she was kidnapped. And so he has to wait until Haley is no longer in the room to text his daughter. That's crazy because he was looking like, let me text and hope she don't come back. Like it was kind of crazy. Like, is this the life y'all want to live? But okay. So he, text her to let her know that he was thinking about her and if she needed to talk or needed anything to give him a call or whatever. And so everybody was texting her mom, her dad, they both texted her, and I believe Naomi did as well. Then we have Danny and Andre there, sitting in Orphe Jeans having breakfast, and in comes Heather because, as we know, she already has a relationship with Danny, but she did not reveal that when she last saw Andre. So she comes in and Danny's like, oh, hey, Heather, blah, blah, blah. And they're talking, and he is caught off guard by the familiarity between Danny and Heather. But yeah, she already knows your wife. So, like, Danny was like, oh, come sit with us. And she's like, oh, no, I'm just picking up takeout. She's like, oh, don't be silly. Come sit with us. So she's sitting with us. And Andre, he ain't got no words. He just stuffing that fruit in his mouth because, you know, he is feeling kind of cornered. But my thing is anything that you had going on with Heather, that predates Danny and the relationship that you've had with Danny. So you not telling Danny is just you being foolish at this point. Like, what is the purpose? Like, can somebody clue me in on what's the purpose? Is nothing he can say short of like he raped somebody or something. But other than that, like, is nothing that he can't tell Danny that Danny's gonna be like, oh my goodness, I'm clutching my pearls. Like, it's not even that deep for you to be keeping this secret. So they talk or whatever, and then Heather leaves. And so when Heather leaves, he is talking to Danny and he's like, yeah, I got some errands to run or whatever. So he leaves, but he goes over to see Heather, and he, is mad because he thinks she's trying to mess up his marriage because why didn't she tell him that she was already acquainted with Danny? And she's like, okay, whatever. And he was like, leave my wife alone and all of this. She's like, well, if you want me to leave Danny alone, I can do that, but I'm gonna need something from you first, and you know what it is. So I'm guessing she wants him to sleep with her first, or that, which is crazy to me, but I guess that's what she wants. And so she's like, "You gonna have to give me what I want first." And he was like, "I gotta go." And she was like, "Well, you can think about it, but don't think too long." And because he thought, that maybe she wanted him, that she was going to expose their past to Danny. And he was like, "Well, I'll go tell her myself." "You should tell her yourself anyway. Why you're keeping this secret makes no sense at all to me. But okay, Andre." So then we have Kat and Tomas. They're having breakfast at Uptown, but then he gets an important message for work and he has to leave. So he leaves, and she's there waiting for Chelsea. Meanwhile, Chelsea is at home and she is having nightmares. And then Madison wakes her up from the nightmare because she's back from Copenhagen. And she's trying to be there for Chelsea, and Chelsea's like she'll be okay, so she stays. She gets a call from Tomas saying that he needs her to get to Hamilton and Associates as quickly as possible. So she leaves, and Chelsea is there trying to get her bearings or whatever. And once she does, she finally goes to Uptown to meet with Kat, and she's getting unknown phone calls, but they're not saying anything. And then, she's talking to Kat, but she doesn't really say anything about what today is. And Kat doesn't bring it up because Kat doesn't want to trigger her. And she doesn't, it's a tricky situation because I just recently had a situation where something was going on with a friend of mine, and I didn't know how, like, if I should bring it up or ask. And so you try and take your cues from the person. So, Chelsea brings it up. And so Kat's like, "Oh, I remember what today is." And, she's, telling her that she's there for her or whatever. And Chelsea starts to think that the unknown caller that is calling her is probably it's likely to be Allison, which is the girl that kidnapped her. Um, anyway, so then Tomas and Naomi and Madison are at the law firm, and she tells Naomi that Tomas called her, and she's like, "What?" And the thing is about this, Tomas is overstepping because the case is Naomi's and Bill is second chair. She brought Bill in to help her. It's not the other way around. So why you think that you can come in here and dictate what is happening is crazy. And to do it in front of the client and make the client feel uneasy and uncomfortable is crazy. So basically, Mike called in a emergency meeting with Tomas because he rather deal with Tomas than to have to deal with a woman, i.e. Naomi. And so he wants to take advantage of the fact that Bill is in the hospital and try and force Tomas to settle, because we already know that Tomas likes to take the easy way out anyway. And so he tries to influence Madison, and then Naomi has to get into it with him, and then Naomi basically ends up going back to tell Bill what was going on, and he was like, "Okay, don't worry about it, I'll handle Tomas." So he calls Tomas over there, and then Tomas kind of trying to get smart with Bill, but like Bill is like, Bill can fire you. Like, you begin to beside yourself. And I don't know what's wrong with you, Tomas. Like, if you so good, because he's not that good of a lawyer. I'm just gonna say it. But if you're so good, go make your own name for your own self outside of Bill's firm. You should have left when you had that offer months ago and you thought Bill was gonna fire you. But anyway, so then Haley is talking to Randy, and um Randy thinks she's stupid and making a whole bunch of dumb mistakes. And then she goes to Bill's office to get his laptop, and Danny shows up to talk to Naomi, and then her and Danny have words. But yeah, that was Beyond the Gates for today. I'll be back on Monday. Have a great weekend.